Hello. Happy Friday to everybody. I'm so happy it's the end of the week. And as always, I'm so happy that I get to share some screen time loving with Kuva99. Kuva, are you feeling better?
A lot better than I was, that's for sure. Still not
good,
100%, but it takes time sometimes.
So you're
Loads
not
of
dying.
illnesses around at the moment. Scarlet fever, COVID, still a knocking around. Lots of flu.
There's a lot knocking around, to be honest. And just in case I've not been ill, she's taken me to the father-in-law's tomorrow. He lives in Deal, which means we're going to do some walking in the cold along the pier because apparently it's nice. It's nice to do that. So,
meow.
Yeah, I know. Oh, don't. Because I always go, I'm like, do I have to come? Yeah, I do have to come. Right. Okay, it's what I married into. Okay, got it. Kuva, today we're going to talk about lots of different things. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Daniel Booth, we'll open up their chat later if you want to come on. Absolutely, indeed. Kuva, we'll start with that. Unfortunately, Sinisa Mihajlovic has passed away. Awful news. Let's put some praise on his name. What a player.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we came on there, weren't we? A hell of a free kick taker. Tons of goals for his clubs and country. Played back in the days when it was the old Yugoslavia, in fact. So they had some very talented players back, but he was one of the real standouts. I think teams like Inter and Lazio, he was scoring like, a goal every 4 games for Inter, a goal every 6 games for Lazio. This is a defender. That's amazing numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tremendous talent. Absolutely tremendous talent. Real standout player from his generation. So
I remember some of his free kicks. I remember were just sensational. At one point, we were just saying off stream, I think he had a better ratio at one point than old Golden Balls, old Beckham, didn't he? He just had sensational free kicks. I don't know if there are many great free kick takers anymore in the world. I mean, we'll go into that a bit later, but there's no one that strikes me as rattling them in, other than maybe James Ward-Prowse.
They don't. Even he doesn't really rattle them in, does he?
Not anymore. But I mean, last season didn't he get like 10 or 11 direct free kicks or something? I don't know.
No, I don't think it was anywhere near that. Was it? It was more like about 3, wasn't it? It's just three's a lot compared to other people at the moment.
Yeah,
they just don't go in much, do they? I think people have just done their research maybe on. Is it better to do a direct free kick or is it better to do a clever little free kick?
I like a direct free. I like a player that knows he can take a free kick, steps up, bends it around the wall, and just gives it that kind of I love that. We have Eric Dyer and Harry Payne.
Yeah, part of the reason as well is people are just getting bigger nowadays, getting taller. It's harder to get the ball over. No, literally.
No,
better diets in food and everything. The populations are just growing in height, so it's harder to get the ball over the wall or around the wall. And the goalkeeper's usually about 9'2".
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly before we start talking, Bob Spur, big up to yourself as well. Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, we are going to do a 24-hour charity stream on Friday, the 13th of January. Couldn't have picked a better date to do it. Friday the 13th, starting at 9 p.m, going through till Saturday at 9 p.m. I will have over 20, it will be more, but at the moment I've got 20 different guests lined up for different times across that 24 hours, calling on some of our Canadian friends to come throughout the night, for more of our English friends for some more of the suitable hours. We will have quizzes, giveaways. We'll be chatting about anything football. It won't just be Tottenham, anything football. And that weekend on the Sunday is the North London Derby, so we'll be building up to that. And there will be no super chat function turned on for that show. That will purely be, there will be a text number, and anyone that would like to donate to the British Heart Foundation will be able to. And we're aiming for about 2.5K. So we'll see where we get to. And my missus doesn't think I'll be able to go 24 hours. So I'm just, I reckon I can.
Another story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she knows about my sustainability. So let's talk football. Big up to everyone in the stream. If you want, sorry, Steve, it is the British Heart Foundation. Unfortunately, both my parents passed from heart diseases in one way or another. So listen, I want to use my platform Not saying I'm huge, but I want to use my platform to try and give back and raise some money. Let's talk football, Kuva. Big up anyone in the chat. Ask any questions you want. Kuva, we are going to talk today. We're going to go back in time a little bit before we come back to the present day. The first topic we're going to discuss is, Bob, stop making me laugh. The first topic we're going to discuss is which players did Spurs sign at the peak of their powers, i.e. world class when they joined us. So the game is going to be this, Kuva. I'm going to bring a player up onto my banner, right? And then I am going to ask you and everyone else in the chat to discuss, was this player world class at the time of buying them? Were they ever world class, or did they become world class after they joined us? So I've got a few. After that, what we're going to do, stay tuned, everybody. We are going to talk about Poch's famous 11 versus where we are now. What's happened? How did we go so far downhill? And then
are we allowed to cry a bit at that point? Or?
Yeah, we could cry at any point. We love crying. Crying is good. And if for anyone who didn't know, Bob Spur was in a coma. Really?
At least he couldn't go on about it. I mean,
no, he's got his own Wikipedia page and everything. So let's start. Here's the first one. I'm going to start with the obvious, Kuva, because for me, football is all about opinions, right? And listen, you and I think we agree on a lot of things, but there are things we disagree on. But I do believe that this one will be the one we all go, yeah. So I'm going to start with this guy here, Jurgen Klinsmann. Kuva, was he world class when we signed him in 1994? How good was he? And am I wrong in any way in calling him world class? People in the chat, what do you remember about Klinsmann?
It's simple for me. One of the greatest strikers of all time. It'd be world class in any generation. I think we got him. You know, he was still at his peak when he came to us. Loads of experience as well at that point. Sensational player, transforms your team. Partnership I saw with him and Sheringham, still rate that as the best strike partnership we've had at Spurs ever. Crooks and Archibald was bloody good in the 80s, but this was something special. The intelligence of the man, intelligence of Sheringham putting together is dynamite. Klinsmann, fearless, great finisher, bit of pace to him, but as all the great players do, reads the game so well. He just made that extra bit of space for himself, just using his intelligence and anticipation and get the extra yard on players. Just made it look easy and fun.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when he signed, there's obviously the famous photo of him on Alan Sugar's yacht. If you remember that. It wasn't the days of Sky Sports News. I mean, this was, I remember flicking through teletext and it just came up at do you remember you had one big headline followed by loads of little ones and it was Jurgen Klinsmann signs for Spurs. And I remember thinking, that's amazing. Like, it can't be true. And it was. I mean,
I always tell the story this way because you remember when the 9/11 happened or something like that, and people were saying, "Yo, you always remember what you were doing when that."
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was doing at that point, but when Jurgen Klinsmann signed, I remember exactly what I was doing when I heard the news. Remember which office I was in, and I remember what was written on the bit of paper I was holding at the time. And I said to the person that told me, "Nah, you're joking, aren't you?" It was unreal. It's like one of those signings where you just don't do. Nothing like it since, that's for sure.
I mean, it was that I've never seen Spurs sign a player, even to this day, never. And correct me again, Kuva, correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone in the chat will correct me if I'm wrong, because that's the beauty of having people in a chat box, is I don't ever remember, by the way, anyone who's talking about Gaza, Ardiles, Lineker, that type of thing. Sorry, I should have mentioned we're going from the Premier League inception in 1992.
Sure. Otherwise, it's always going to be the Greavesy and Mackay.
Yeah. I'm going since 1992. So I remember there was this kind of this anticipation, this build up that summer of Jurgen Klinsmann's at Tottenham, and everyone was so excited. And I remember we played a friendly that summer against, I want to say, Watford at Vicarage Road, and it was like a record-breaking attendance for for a pre-season game because everyone wanted to see Jurgen Klinsmann. And then he didn't disappoint on his debut either, did he? Do you remember? He just didn't disappoint.
The power header and the 4-3 win summed up the Ozzy Ardiles reign, didn't it? 4-3.
It did.
And then the signature dive bomb move at the end, which everybody joined in with. It was just an amazing day all round. Pretty sure he split his head open again as well. Same game, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, I mean, it was
just soldiered on with it as well. None of this crying off.
Yeah. It just, I think as a number 9, he had everything, didn't he? He had that hold up ability. He had that ability to score screamers from 20 yards. He knew where to be in the box. He had the overhead kicks in the locker. He was great in the air. And I want to go back.
Bravery's a big thing for a striker. He was prepared to stick his head in where it hurt. He's just all round incredible player.
Absolutely. And just before we move on to the next player, just to touch on a point you made. Love touching Kuva's points. Sorry, that was bad. The partnership he built with Sheringham. Now, I agree with you. For me, since I've supported Spurs, I've never seen a partnership like it. And I know people will talk about Kane and Son, but for me, as for the 4-4-2 and as two centre forwards go, it was such a perfect partnership, wasn't it? It was just, I mean, I think they both got over 20 goals that year. And you know, Sheringham did the dropping deep, and it just worked, didn't it? It was amazing.
Yeah, it was just you had the feeling that at any point we could suddenly turn on the style and we'd get like 3 or 4 goals in 10 minutes. It just felt that way. With Klinsmann on the pitch, you felt there could be a goal any second. He just needed that one half chance. It was a good chance he was going to put it away. Just incredible player. Love to see what his overall stats were with accuracy when he was with us, because it just felt like every time the ball went to him, it found the back of the net.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, so I'm just going to double check his figures for that year with us. What simply sensational, if I remember. Jurgen Klinsmann career statistics. Let's have a look. Every time I go to Wikipedia, it asks me for money. Jurgen Klinsmann, Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, he played 41 league games and got 20 league goals, and he got 29 in 50 in all competitions. I mean, if you're getting 50 goals, right? Sorry, if you're getting 30 goals in 50 games, and then when he came back to us in 97, 98, he got 9 in 18. So his goal record for Spurs was every other game. It was phenomenal. It was
if you look over the history of the Premiership as well, there weren't really that many players that would get 20 goals in a season.
No, absolutely.
Well remembered. You know, you'd always have your Shearers, your Owens, Robbie Fowlers, those types, but there weren't too many join them up there in that bracket.
Yeah.
So yeah, he really stood out. But I mean, it's club and country though, isn't it? I mean, World Cup winning, just that something about him. The same as with Ginola. There's just something about the image, isn't there? It's like this sort of pure footballing greatness sort of style to it. It's like an aura. Everything was great if he was playing. Just an infectious personality.
Yeah, and that goal at Anfield, FA Cup, right? Was that the FA?
Right.
I've got this vision of Sheringham laying it off and Klinsmann bending it in. Is that the one you're talking about, Zombie FX? I've got this vision of it. Listen, let's move on. I mean, Klinsmann was just out of this world. I want to talk about this guy. He played with Klinsmann in his second stint at the club. Klinsmann's second stint. I'm talking about David Ginola. Now, for me, Kuva, I only speak on behalf of myself. One of the greatest players I've ever seen in a Tottenham shirt, just for what he did with a football. I know the kids of today, everything needs to be a stat. And what did you do every 0.25 minute of the game, and pressures in the final third. And just watching this man made me love having a season to get at Tottenham. We weren't great. We finished like 11th every year. But just to put it in perspective for anyone that never saw Ginola play, Kuva, this man, in a year that Man United won a treble, won the double Football Player of the Year award playing for Tottenham Hotspur. How good was Ginola?
unfortunately for him, he came from a Newcastle side that were really pushing for the league title, should have won it. Surrounded by great players, and he was shining there. It came to us, and it was like a drop down. Let's be honest, we were not a good team. So it kind of glossed over the fact that he was this brilliant. He really was a fantastic player. You've got to put him in the world-class bracket, definitely. It was just sensational play. I mean, the footballer of the year for a start. I mean, you're not doing too badly then, are you? That's at the point where you think people are saying, questioning his fitness and stuff. The fitness didn't matter. He had the ability. Some of those goals, that one against Barnsley was just unreal, where he dribbled past about 40 players. It was just you'd expect it from him. I just remember this was like a prime part of me going to watch Spurs, meet up with my mates Bournemouth, head to the ground, a few beers beforehand. We knew we probably weren't going to win. We'd go to go and hope for a banger from Ginola, and we'd go home happy. It was weird. It was just such genius. It's just, like you said, it's the reason you'd pay for a ticket. You just want to see something from him. You expect it. He's just got that ability that other players don't.
For me, it was effortless. Like I remember players would give Ginola the ball. He'd have 3 or 4 men around him, and he'd come out the other side with the ball through trickery. And bearing in mind, he was a big guy. He was like 6'2" or something. He was a big guy, but had that amazing ability to drop the shoulder right or left. He could go right or left. He could take corners with both feet. He scored some absolute worldies. And I think what a lot of people, whenever I talk about Ginola, I get lots of people talking to me about stats. And you have to remember, not you, Kuva, but we remember it. But in those days, it was 4-4-2. So Ginola wasn't part of a front three. He wasn't a wide forward. He was a winger. Like he was the old-fashioned winger, the same as a Ryan Giggs, a Lee Sharp, an Andre Konchelski. Do you know what I mean? That Overmars, that ilk.
Actually, you'd say he probably wasn't old-fashioned in that respect, because he would drift inside. He would go central and dribble the ball inside to take the shots as well. You could even argue he's an inverted winger part of the time. It's just, like you said, it doesn't matter. He'd drop either shoulder, go either way at pace with immaculate close control. Just amazing to watch, really was. We had this conversation a little while ago, didn't we, about dribblers, proper dribblers in the game. Some players just knock the ball past somebody and run past them. It's like it was stuck to his shoes. It was incredible to watch. Absolutely loved it. Ginola in full flow it's one of the greatest things you'll ever see in football.
I love to see. For me, I think this is, since then, I think that the next one we had, he's not on the list, by the way, because we didn't buy him as world class, was Gareth Bale in terms of that excitement. But I just remember the team we had, and I'm going to say this, I apologise to everyone who's in the chat. It was a very bad 11, but with Sol Campbell at the back and Ginola on the left wing. Other than that, it wasn't really... There was nothing really there. We were a very average football team with the likes of Rolf Fox on the right wing, Chris Perry at centre half. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a great team, but Ginola made it. I don't know. He just made every game feel like something could happen.
It was just that tiny upgrade on Andy Sinton, wasn't he?
Yeah, just a little bit. He was Sinton, but French and sexy. A sexy Andy Sinton. But I mean, I would ask anybody in the chat who's not seen Ginola play. This is the type of person you do have to YouTube, because they don't make them like that anymore. I don't see many players in the world now that play that way of football. And I feel sorry for him, because actually when he was at Newcastle, it's the famous story that Barcelona had agreed a deal for him. Barcelona wanted him, and Barcelona, and they wouldn't let him go to Barcelona because it was the same year they'd sold Andy Cole to Man United, and they couldn't lose Cole and Ginola in the same year. So that's how football careers go, right? But just amazing. Next one on the list, Kuva. Now this is where they start to get a bit okay. Talk to me about this man, Rafael van der Vaart. Now, he was certainly a cult hero for the short stint he was at Spurs. We got him quite luckily. I think it was a last minute kind of deal. He wasn't wanted by Madrid, and we got him for like 8 million. A Harry hanging out the window.
It was kind of a case of Levy was over in Madrid, and it was one of those last minute deals you get from a shady marketer. You open up the suitcase, and go, you fancy one of these before we go? Like, knockdown deal, 5 mil. Rings up Harry Redknapp. Do you want the Van der Vaart? Yeah.
Of course I do. I mean, was he? He was a maverick, but was he world class? I mean, he was certainly a bloody good footballer, but are we putting him in that world class bracket?
Ooh. You'd have to say in his career, it probably didn't live up to his talent for me. He's one of those players that when he's on top form, he's one of the best you'll ever see. But he would drift out of games sometimes. He just didn't feel up for it. Seemed a bit lazy at times. I think that's probably why he didn't make it in Madrid. Really, they're happy to get rid of him because of that. I remember some of my Dutch mates at the time telling me, as soon as we signed him, he said, if you can get him fit and if you can get him interested, you've got a hell of a player. They're right. Yeah. That's exactly what we saw, wasn't it? He could destroy teams or just go missing, like he was thinking about nipping down for a couple of pints or go on holiday.
It was a strange one, wasn't it? I mean, but when he turned it on, he really turned it on, and he became a real crowd favourite. I thought he kind of petered out at the end. I thought, I thought he started to look a bit bigger, actually. But maybe that's just me. But, I mean, some of his goals, his influence, again, another one that when we signed him, everyone got really excited again to watch the team play. And it's the sort of signing I'd love to make. I'd love a VDV again, just sitting in that. Imagine him in this formation behind Kane. I'd love that.
I'm just imagining him if we had him on the bench when Pochettino was in charge. How many of those games that we drew or lost might have turned into wins and we ended up with something? That's the kind of player that he makes your good team into what potentially a great team. Just adds that dash of quality that. It's like the same with Ginola. He could do things with the ball that other players just couldn't. They're really special sort of talent. But for me, it was just the consistency. That was the thing that let him down.
It was indeed, And I think the key thing about Van der Vaart for me was it was aura. He definitely had that aura about him. But you've got to have some players like that, right? You've got to, whether you call them, I don't always like calling people like that mavericks because I think it's actually unfair. But I don't think you can have a team full of people that do all the hard work and the nitty gritty, like as Graham calls them, nuts and bolts players. We've got a lot of.
You certainly don't want 10 Sissokos out on the pitch, do you?
Right? No, and that's what I liked in that team we had with Van der Vaart. There was that good mixture of hard work in midfield, plus you had players like Van der Vaart going forwards. So look, top player, but are we putting him just in that little echelon below world class?
Yeah, I think he was too erratic to be consistently there. As I said at the start, I think he should have just been, if he'd had that level of consistency, perhaps he would have had more trophies to his name as a player. Mm-hmm. He was on the brink of true greatness, but it was class. Yeah, that's it. It was class for us. He was. But just that level below for me. I'd love to have him in the team now, I must admit. I mean, who wouldn't?
I agree with you. The next player is a player that I don't think we bought him as world class, but we certainly bought him, and he was so much better than I think any Spurs fan imagined. One of my favourite all-time Spurs players.
Oh, knew you were going to put this one up.
Dimitar Berbatov. I mean, I was, we had this conversation yesterday on WhatsApp, didn't we, about Berbatov. People have been asking me the last 48 hours, who would you rather have, Berbatov v Son? It's caused a whirlwind on Instagram where I put it up, who would you rather have? And loads of people going, oh, but stats. And I'm like, oh, you've clearly never seen Berbatov with a football at his feet. But this man, we knew we were signing a good player because there was lots of talk about him across Europe from, I want to say Leverkusen.
I think it was.
So the beauty of being live, someone will correct you if you're wrong, Kuva. It's all good. We signed him from Germany, from Leverkusen. he came over and he was just different. He was Cantona-esque in terms of arrogant, oozed that kind of that aura of give me the ball. Don't worry if I've got 5 men on me. Just give me the ball. I'll do it. He was class, wasn't he?
Yeah, for me, it's one that usually gets me a bit of heat when I say it. In my opinion, that is the greatest forward we've had in my lifetime.
Wow,
pure talent wise. Obviously, Kane's going to be a legend because he's been here for so long now, consistently banging in the goals. But pure skills, Berbatov, his unbelievable control was it was insane to watch. Some players have just got this ability. Huddle had it as well. You could get players almost blast it at him from point blank and he'd bring it under control. Just like that. Like it's not an effort. Berbatov was the same. He could read the game so well, so intelligent with everything he did. Goals about him all the way through his career. If he played with somebody, he'd make them look better. And he could also do it by himself as a lone forward. He just had it all. Absolute perfect forward for me.
It was brilliant.
He's the sort of player who was so good that even when Ronaldo was at his prime and Ronaldo, say, missed a match, if you put Berbatov in, nobody would be bothered. You knew you'd still get goals at him.
Yeah.
He fits that kind of calibre.
I think it was harsh because so many people, I think, I don't want to say the word uneducated, but I think it's really lazy and naive when lots of people go, oh, but he was lazy and didn't run. But I think the beauty of a player like Berbatov is he was so intelligent. The same with Messi now as he's got older. So intelligent, you don't have to run. You drop into those little pockets of space, you get the ball, and your feet do the running, don't they? Your feet make the ball move, so you don't have to run. You know what I mean? But I was watching Soccer Box yesterday. Have you ever seen Soccer Box? Gary Neville's Soccer Box, where he has a guest on and they go through all their career and their goals. And he had Berbatov, and they showed some of his goals where actually, when he wanted to run, he could actually pick up quite a head of steam. And there was this goal against Charlton where he kind of flicked it, it went round, and he just he was calm.
For me, it's going in with the approach where some people would say he was a bit lazy at times. I think when you're a forward, you should be conserve your energy to use it at the time where you're going to most hurt the opposition. There's no point running like a headless chicken, Jamie Vardy style for 90 minutes. Jamie Vardy can do it because he was exceptionally fit for so many years. But Berbatov, he's a Rolls Royce. He just puts his foot on the accelerator when he needs to. The rest of the time, it's just easy going.
The class of the man, I suppose, is that he had 2 years at Spurs, Man United, who were the best team in the country by a mile at the time, not now, but at the time, took him, won the leagues with him, won cups with him. He was their top scorer, and he just fit in like a. He fit in like a glove. And I seem to remember a game where he scored like an impossible sort of goal from an angle, a really tight angle. Maybe he got a hat-trick that game or something. But that's my type of footballer, yeah. I want to watch that. Yeah, players that press, brilliant, well done. You're fit, you can run. But that technique, that quality, not everyone has that.
Absolutely. Like I said, with Glenn Hoddle had that same knack of control. Just vision, control, knowing where to be to create a bit of space for yourself. And like it's an old cliche now, isn't it? All the greatest players seem to have more time on the ball. They have more space than other players. He was the same. Devastating player to play against. I think he was really a dream for any manager in any time period. It's just fantastic football player. Was he world class when we signed him, though? I'd say probably not.
Probably not, but he was so much better than I thought when we signed him that it made me go, oh, who's this? Hang on, have we underrated this guy? But I mean, sensational footballer. It was kind of like, I was watching the Argentina game the other night, and one of my mates, completely patriotic. If you say anything about England that isn't, they're the best, then you're not, you're not English. Go away, that sort of fan. And he said to me, the thing I don't like, I'm watching Messi every game, is like he don't run around. Like I feel like he's not interested in the game. And I said, you do realise that Lionel Messi watches what's going on, realises where that gap is and goes, I'll just go and stand in there and the ball will come to me. And I said, when he gets it, now we're alive. Yep.
I think you've got to appreciate with people like Messi though. Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, all those prime Barcelona, they did run around like maniacs to get the ball back. It was one of the most notable things about the team. Thing is, Messi's getting on a bit now. He can't do that
now. Yeah.
So he's got to pick and choose his times, and he's doing it brilliantly. Ronaldo, same thing. You're not going to get a Ronaldo chasing around for the team. We saw that at Man United. That's why he eventually had to be dropped out of the team. Thing is, they could have kept playing him. He would have kept scoring goals. You know it, don't you? It's just you just can't get the all-round performance that you want if you're going to be high pressing, especially. Messi the same. Age catches up with you eventually.
Yeah. I mean, Bob's jumped in with, I'm going to say it, Klinsmann, Berber, Keane, all great players. But for me, Kane is Spurs #1 during the Premier League era. Bring on the heat. I mean, look, it's a great argument. I think when we get to the point of debating players like this, it's good because it means there's been so many good players in that position. For me, it's difficult because Kane's obviously had longer than all of those players, right? What would Klinsmann have done if he was here for 7, 8, 9 years? What would Berbatov have achieved? It's impossible to say, but from a longevity perspective, I think it's Kane. For a talent perspective, I think up front it's definitely Berber, if I'm honest. And from an all-round perspective, I think Sheringham got to get a mention. I thought Sheringham was a sensational footballer that doesn't get anywhere near enough praise. But Bob, all opinions. I don't think anyone's going to really argue when you talk about Kane. But hey, it is
for me. Sheringham and Kane are so similar. Both very intelligent footballers. Great to drop back and pick passes for other players, bring other people into the attack. We were much better with those players playing. All that was needed always good strike partners with them. Sonny and Kane being brilliant. Sheringham, I'd say at peak, it's got to be that partnership with Klinsmann.
I agree. I've not seen a part. Listen, Keane and Berbatov was a great partnership, but Sheringham and Klinsmann, I don't know. For me, I don't know. It just had everything. It was just brilliant. We're going to rattle through the next players. So I don't believe they were world class when we got them, but I'm interested to know whether people think they were world class at all.
Kevin Scott.
Kevin Scott is definitely in there, so don't you worry. We will look at that. The first one is this man, Jan Vertonghen. Now, Jan Vertonghen for me, I thought was good when he joined, but I thought got a lot better once he was alongside Toby. Now, you could say that it was because of each other. You could say it was because Toby was that good. You could say it was because Jan was playing with poor players beforehand. But do you think at any point Jan Vertonghen in his peak could be considered a world-class centre-back?
Oh, this is that old argument about world-class, isn't it? Depends on your definition. For my definition, yes, he could be. Because at his peak, world-class for me meant he could walk into any team in the world and not be out of place, not be the odd one out who wasn't good enough. He was good enough. So for me, he was world-class at his peak. Compared to other players over the generations, was he as good a defender as Ledley King? Not for me. Was he as good as Judas when he was with us? No.
Tough one talking about Judas, isn't it? Because
it is. It's part of the whole thing with Judas, though, isn't it? The reason it hurt him going so much is he was great for us. Yeah. If he was rubbish, if it was a Hossam Ghali, wouldn't give a shit, would we?
Yeah. No. You're right. You're right. Just quickly, Ben Kaufman said Messi can play till he's 45. He's so intelligent, he doesn't have to run. Absolutely. I tell you what, though, if he wins the World Cup, I'd retire from international football. I don't think he's got, after that, you've got nowhere to go, have you? Just retire.
It would be fitting, wouldn't it?
It'd be absolutely brilliant. Bob Spurs said longevity is the key. Richard said Kane's amazing, but for me, he doesn't turn up enough in the big games. It's that old argument again, that debate. We can talk about that a bit later. Stuart has brought in two of the best we've ever signed in Andy Booth and Gregor Raziak.
Raziak, the man that was 6'2", and when he jumped for the header, he suddenly was 5'6". It was just
don't forget we We also signed Dave McEwen from Dulwich Hamlet. Don't forget that, guys. We did that. Steve is a Kane, not for me. The England record is pointless. 19 penalties and played so many silly nations that didn't exist. And excuse me, how dare I sneeze live on stream? Always going to be debates now through different eras, Kuva, right? Because that is a big thing that's thrown at players in international games now. Is there's so many meaningless games where there weren't. I mean, I remember growing up watching England. I don't remember so many meaningless games against minnows where we'd get 15 goals. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. We always had games like against Turkey, we'd always hit about 7 or 8 goals.
Yeah, but it wasn't every week. Like, it feels like with England now, you have like, it just feels like if you look at players' stats, it will say how many tournament goals versus how many friendly goals. And then when you actually go through their friendly goals, it's like, you know, San Marino, you know, Panama, this, and you're thinking, oh, but hey, it's horses for courses, different eras, right?
Well, yeah, it's like one of the best England forwards I've ever seen is Gary Lineker. He hasn't got anywhere near the top of the pile when it comes to goals scored, but well, he hasn't fairly near, but the point was he turned up in those World Cups, you know, getting us to a quarter final, followed by a semi-final, golden boot in the World Cup, in a time when, as you were saying, it was more difficult to come by goals back in the World Cup of those days. I'd say there weren't quite so many absolute nobodies getting into the finals. Although, you know, we keep saying, you know, there's no easy international games anymore. Of course, there bloody are. I should say, just to wind up Bobby Kay, if he's watching, I should say Canada, shouldn't I? No, but I won't.
I'll say it. I'll say it. Canada were. I heard so many things about Canada going into this. Watch out for Canada. Canada this, Canada that, and didn't they lose all 3 games?
Yeah, I think probably did.
Didn't tell me. I mean, listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. The next player, we've got 3 more, and then I want to move on to the Poch era versus now. Now, this player, I don't need to ask if he was world class. Just when we signed him, did you think he was going to be as good as he was? This guy has won everything in world football. He's even won a Ballon d'Or, and it's Luka Modric.
Oh no, wait, all right, I mean, Modric. No, but I don't think anybody's going to argue against him being world class over the last few years. The question was when we signed him. No. Yeah. There'll be a lot of people that would have thought, "Who's that?" You'd have to pay a bit of attention to European football at the time to really know him. Knew he was good. There was a bit of a debate on, is he going to be strong enough? A lot of people thought he's too frail, he won't make it in the Premiership. My God, though, people were wrong. We benefited massively from him. So I think at the point we signed him, he was a really talented player with loads of potential. He hit that potential. He just seems to get better and better the older he gets.
Yeah, he truly does. And I mean, even watching him in this world, I know you've boycotted the World Cup, but watching him pull strings for Croatia at the age of 37, and you just think it's just effortless. It's like he's got better than ever. You know, I would say without the legs, but he's still getting around the park and
Madrid as well. That brilliant pass from midfield outside of the boot curled into, I think it was Benzema's path or something, in the Champions League final. It was just unreal. What was it, the semi-final? I'm trying to remember which game was in there. But we're raving about it for ages. Just Modric, so effortless, 40-yard ball, outside of the boot, curled over perfectly in his path. And, you know, that's one of those special passes you just don't see from many players either. If what's his name at City did it, God, losing it, Belgian player, the passer,
De
Bruyne, yeah. How can I forget the name? I'm really losing it. I am actually getting senile now, I think. If De Bruyne had done that pass, everybody would say, "Oh, yeah, he does that all the time."
Sorry, getting senile.
I don't live here. So I've got my Werther's out of sight here, and I've got tartan blanket over my knees.
It's a strange. Just really quickly, Foggy Foam. I'll be honest, mate. I thought Canada were really good in their first game. They lost to Belgium. I didn't think they deserved to lose that. I then watched them get absolutely spanked by Croatia, a team that don't score a lot of goals. And then in their last game, I can't even remember who they played. I think they were already out. But look, for me, this for me is the England national team syndrome. It's always about, oh, they were good, but didn't get over the line, or look what we've achieved. Well, you didn't. So we won't go down that route. I'll have people like Scott M and Bobby having a right go at me. A couple of other players I just wanted to mention. Hugo Lloris. Where do you stand with Hugo? I mean, this is a man who could, by Sunday evening, have won 2 World Cups, captained France to 2 World Cups. He's been at Spurs for a decade, just under a decade now. I don't think he is what he was, but do you think at any point he's been world class, or maybe just that level below?
Oh, yeah, I think at some point he was world class. I thought he's had some sensational seasons for us and so many incredible saves in a row. Matches where he's won us almost single-handedly. And done it so often. Quite often we've had crumbling defences around him, and he's kept us in games.
Yeah.
Was he world class when we got him? Certainly not. But he was young, and he was the next big thing, and people knew it at the time. It was kind of like, I put it on par with sort of United signing Rooney. You know, he was a great young player. You didn't really see how his career was going to blossom that much, and it goes that well. But that's what we got with Hugo. It's like that's the sort of young talent you want to see blossom in your team, and he certainly did. The fact that now we're questioning him after this many years says it all. Really, he's been great for us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
World class. Could he have got into any team at his peak? Yeah, I think he could.
Yeah, I always think the one thing for me that has let Hugo down, a couple of things actually, is his feet. And I think that's been more relevant in the last few years in terms of how the game has evolved. And secondly, sometimes I just don't feel he commands his box as much as you want him to. But certainly he's been a top keeper for years and years.
I think ultimately you look at it, World Cup winner, possibly going to be a double World Cup winner.
True. Yeah. So, look, absolutely. The last player,
you certainly wouldn't say, "Oh, that must mean he's the only French goalkeeper out there." That's not going to be true, is it?
Well, no. I mean, Magnan, is it Magnan? He's a very good goalkeeper, but can't get in the team. They've stuck with Hugo. He's now the all-time record appearance holder, and as we said, he's 90 minutes away from captaining France to a second World Cup. Last player I wanted to mention. I don't know if I'd go as far as world class, but a player I think never, ever got enough credit for his sensational talent and his ability to run a game and pass a ball and dictate is Michael Carrick.
Yep. Oh, surprised me.
Who did you think I was going for?
Dembele.
Oh, no, I like Dembele. Dembele for me was quality in his time, but I think the fact that we were the peak of his career, Tottenham Hotspur, at the time, I just feel like someone like Michael Carrick went on to Man United and was like their anchor in midfield for, a decade? Winning Champions League, Cups. I don't know. I just felt there was something about Carrick that had not been mismanaged for England and we had a manager that had the balls to drop either Lampard or Gerrard, I think he would have absolutely thrived playing in central midfield, just controlling and dictating almost the way a Busquets does or a Rodri does.
It's probably the best comparison for me would be Busquets.
Yeah.
He's that metronome sort of player, controls the tempo of the game, keeps it simple, got the ability for that Hollywood ball as well when needed, but he didn't need to. He just kept the game moving, controlled whereabouts on the pitch the ball was going to arrive. He read it all. He was like the sort of general in midfield. He was just sit back and, like you said, dictate everything. It was
class.
Incredible player, really underrated, especially for us. Man United could see him. Alex Ferguson knew that was a bloody good player. Utilised him. he's still there coaching, isn't he? He's so respected.
Yeah, he's the Middlesbrough manager now, isn't he?
Oh, he's moved on eventually. Certainly under Ferguson, he stayed on, didn't he?
Yeah, he managed them for a few games. But he's one of those that it was almost like, right, this is my 20-yard box on the pitch. I don't move from here, but you find me in there, and then I will dictate whether we speed things up or slow things down. And for me, that is what we have not had since the days of Moussa Dembele and Modric.
Yeah.
We have not had that. We've got hard workers in midfield. We've got people that will put in a shift. We've got people that people will say, oh, they're a grafter and their heart, they bleed Spurs. But we haven't got that. We haven't got a Rodri. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got an Eriksen, a Rodri, a Thiago Alcantara.
I suppose that's what we're hoping to get from Bentancur, but he certainly isn't there yet.
I like Bentancur. I don't feel he is that. I feel he's a bit more languid in the middle there than those types of players.
I know what you mean. It's kind of like the closest we got at the moment. We're just, hoping for somebody that can do that. Whether he does it or not, I have my doubts. But we have definitely been missing out on this sort of player. Carrick, just quality. Sometimes it was one of these comments Harry Redknapp used ages back, talking about Rio Ferdinand. How do you sum up Rio Ferdinand? And he just goes, class.
Yeah,
that's it. You'd say the same thing with Carrick. It's just looks like Rolls Royce sort of player. He's a cut above the players around him. Never looks flustered. Never gives the ball away. It just, everything was easy. And it was the game. He did control the game. It was done exactly at the pace he wanted.
Exactly.
He just saw the whole game all the time. Fantastic player. United were built around him at that point, despite having Scholes and Giggs in the team. Carrick is the one that enabled everything.
You can have all the forward players, but you've got to have that bloke that sacrifices going forward and says, I'll dictate. The best way I can say that now for any player in the world that I watch is when I watch Man City play, right? When Man City play, they've got Foden, Grealish, Alvarez, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Silva, Haaland. But Rodri touches the ball more than any of them. And Rodri is the one at the anchor that just goes, all right, give it to me. I'll dictate. I'll decide if we go right, left, sideways, forwards, backwards. And that, for me, is such an underrated position to be able to play. And that's why when people talk about Man City, for me, Rodri's the main man there. He's their pace setter. He's the Modric. He's the Carrick, the Modric, the Busquets. I desperately think we need one. I do. That's a different conversation. Moving on, Kuva, I want to talk about where we were. Lots of talk about how, Poch asked for a painful rebuild, how it never came. Lots of people will dispute that and say, well, hang on, he had money, he didn't spend it well, all these kind of things. But one thing is for sure is during that peak time where we had, we'll have to be quite flexible here with formations, but when we had that 11 of Lloris, Walker, Jan, Toby, Rose, Wanyama, Dembele, and then Eriksen, Ali, Son, and Kane. From that 11, I want to just talk about where we've come since then, because that 11, believe it or not, was together 5 years ago, right? That 11 was together 5 years ago until the first part of that jigsaw was broken when it was Kyle Walker, who was the first kind of big player from us that left to go to Man City. So I just want to kind of compare where we were then to where we are now, player-wise, and talk about what's happened. So I want to go through it player by player. Now, we've got to be a little bit flexible here because obviously slightly different formations, although Poch did venture into the wing-backs at times. So I want to start. From then to now, 3 of the players will remain the same, right? But you've got Hugo Lloris. Is Hugo Lloris now a downgrade on the Hugo Lloris that we had during the Pochettino era?
Yes, for me. He's seems to be more. He was always prone to the occasional mistake, but he wasn't. He's not quite as he didn't command his area in a sort of more physical and aerial sort of way. But he was so good at the sweeper keeper, and it was brilliant for our high back line. Playing with that aggressive front forward sort of press, and that was a key key sort of characteristic of our play back then. Hugo would practically be the only player in our half for a lot of games. Can he do that sort of thing now? I don't think so. He's getting on a bit now, isn't he?
So we're going with the first position. We are negative, right? We're negative from where we were, right? If we then look at right back, so we're going. It's difficult here because I tell you what, it's difficult because I want to do the wing backs, but it's difficult because it wasn't the same formation.
It's very difficult to go from Kyle Walker to Emerson.
I mean, what I'll do is I'll do a slow regression of what's actually happened at right back. We've gone from Kyle Walker.
Slow regression is Emerson's playing style.
We've gone from Kyle Walker up here, Trippier, Aurier, Doherty, Royal. I mean, you know, when you look at a player, you think
higher up the list, you could even put Kyle Norton compared to
you could probably, or Kyle Walker-Peters. Yeah. But I mean, how significant has that drop off been on the right side of defence, whether it's wing back or right back? And how bad is that from Tottenham as a club that it's not that we got the first one wrong in replacing Walker, it's that it's been 4 or 5 now, and we're still all clambering for a right wing back of that ilk.
This is kind of difficult to talk about without swearing, to be honest, mate. It really is. I'll try not to.
Okay. Be a good boy.
Can't do it. Can we do some other position there? Oh, no. All right. Kyle Walker. Perfect. Yeah. With on Pochettino's team, especially playing with that high line, he had that recovery pace. He allowed the team to push forward. Didn't have to worry about getting caught on the break so much. Hugo doing the sweeper keeper and Kyle Walker doing the chase back and recovering when normally a team would have a breakaway attempt on goal. Yeah. Essential to the way we were playing. We've never replaced him. Trippier was a talented player for putting the ball in the box. He could create goals. Liked him for that, but he did not have that same pace and athleticism. No. It's all been downhill. Oh, yeah, there's another shout as well. Foyth, when he played at right back, did a really decent job.
I mean, yeah, I didn't particularly like him, but I would listen.
He seemed to be better playing full back than he did centre back,
and better than Emerson Royal for sure. But I mean, in some ways, you could say, Kuva, that we were spoiled for what we had with Kyle Walker for years, because Kyle Walker has gone on to show it at Man City for 5-6 years. As a superb defender, first and foremost. I know nowadays in football, when I see, especially the younger people, people talk about they rate fullbacks by assists, and that's great. You need that, but first and foremost, for me, Kyle Walker defensively was sublime. Nothing went past him, and on the rare occasion it did, his recovery ability, because of that pace and power he had, a strong guy, was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Although I heard Mbappe skinned him for pace in the World Cup the other day, but that's not surprising. Mbappe's freakishly quick, I suppose.
Yeah, he's ridiculously quick.
Yeah, Walker was always underrated by a lot of our fans, I thought. There's one particular plank who I won't mention. He's got his YouTube channel, but I don't watch it. And he's always had derogatory terms for Kyle Walker, and I've just thought, you don't know what he's talking about. He brings so much more to the team. He's not your greatest, most skilled. I won't say. I'll tell you.
Put it in the private chat to me. I won't say it. Put it. Yeah. I mean, listen, we've gone so far downhill there. I mean, let's go over the. I suppose, Kuva, the biggest compliment I can give Walker is that for 5 or 6 years, all I know is most Spurs fans, I can't say all, most Spurs fans are still going, what do we need this window? Right back, right wing back. You know what I mean? It's constantly, what do we need? We need someone on the right. But if we shift it to the left and we look at Danny Rose for that period of time, I mean, Danny Rose for me was nowhere near as good as Walker, but was very good at the time. But even then, since then, what's been the regression from Danny Rose at left back has been Davis, Sessegnon. Now Perisic is there, but who's more of an attack-minded player than having that defensive ability. And is this another area where we've just really struggled at right back? Forget wing back, right back, left back. We've really struggled.
You look at what's needed by managers like Pep, Pochettino, and Conte as well. You look at the wing backs: pace, power, aggression, athleticism.
Oh,
is that Ben Davis? No. Is that Perisic? No.
Yeah.
Was it Danny Rose? Yeah. He wasn't the most talented in the world, but he gave you all he had. He'd square up to anybody, fearless little character. And he'd belt up and down that wing, giving it everything all the time. I mean, it helped when he started off with that wonder goal against the Scum on his debut. But
sure.
Yeah, but I liked him. He really got the crowd behind him because he was just so direct. He was so aggressive with stuff. We were always lacking when Davis would play instead. Davis is actually quite an intelligent footballer, I think. But physically, he's just not. He can't do that role,
and he can't
get slaughtered, and it's not his fault when he's played wing back. He just can't do it.
How much better a footballer, whether it's left back or centre back? I think Davis would actually be a very good defender if he was more mobile. But every time I see him going out to close a player down, it looks like it's a real effort. Do you know what I mean? It looks like he's having to really like he's doing a beat test. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I feel a bit sorry for him because, like I said, I think he reads the game pretty well. He's not a bad defender, but he is painfully slow, and that's always going to bite him in the arse. Yeah, you're right. When he goes out, I always think he's hesitant to do it because he knows if he gets turned, that's it. He's lost his man. Not a lot he can do about that. I think that's why he's taken fairly well to go into centre back. It's a little bit less ground to cover. And having said that, he pushes forward really well again now.
Yeah, he does at times. I mean, just before we move on to Reggie in the comments, everybody, thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon. What time does it turn evening? I don't know. There's 115 of you in here and only 31 likes. Please smash that like button, people. It is free to do. If anyone wants to put in super chats, please do that as well. And please subscribe. We've now got over the 2,400 mark. And we're now going to hunt down the 2,500 mark. So please do that. And please subscribe to the Free Spurs Boys, Bobby K's channel with Kuva and Kuv and the gang. So please subscribe to all of those.
Kuv and the Kang.
Kuv and the what?
Kuv and the Kang.
Did I say Kang?
It's Bobby. You said gang.
Oh, is it Kang?
That's Bobby's surname.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, that's gone over my head for many a month. Oh, okay. Well, I repeat, please join the Free Spurs Boys. It's Kuv and the Kang. Just before we move to centre half, there was also, sorry, I don't know how I forgot this. There was also Serge Reguilon, who was brought in at the same time Bale was brought back on loan. I remember Gareth Bale was asked in his first interview back as a new Spurs player to tell the Spurs fans about Reguilon. What are we getting? And he said, oh, they're going to love him. He's brilliant going forward. He's creative. We got a bit of a mixed bag for Reggie, but I still to this day think I would absolutely have Serge Reguilon over Ryan Sessegnon in any way, shape, or form. So, is he unlucky not to be here? And you know, is he that good? What position is he? What do you think?
I think Kev G summed it up well with that comment. Thought he was going to be the one, and it just didn't work out. When he first arrived, he was sensational. It was like, full of pace, attacking intent, crosses flying in, goal threat. I thought, Jesus, this has solved a big problem. And then I think he got an injury, and then he just sort of dropped off the radar. He just wasn't the same. During the whole COVID thing, he just disappeared totally then. Don't know, seemed to have a liking for the nightlife maybe.
Do you think he'll come back? Do you think he's got a part to play, or do you think he's literally going to be sold on?
He'll get sold on if somebody wants to buy him. He's clearly out of favour. What's the point in keeping a player like that? Oh, yeah, that's what we do, isn't it?
It's a strange one, isn't it? Let's move to centre half. So if we look at that time, you had when we played a 3, it was Jan, Toby, and Dyer. When we played a 2, it was Jan and Toby. So let's look at the 3 to make it more consistent.
Sanchez as well.
Sanchez
first season when Sanchez came in, he was great playing with Toby and Jan.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think that tells you a lot about how good they were rather than his ability. But I mean, look, we've gone from that 3 to Dyer still being in there. Romero, you could say, has replaced Toby.
Toby, really, yeah.
And then at the moment, it's Davis or Longley that have replaced Vertonghen. For me, that's crucial. For me, that is a drop from not from there to there. It's from there to I feel like that's
you drop. Make your bottom hand needs to make contact with the floor, really.
Yeah. It's and is that the crux of most of the problem?
Yeah, you just look at the back 3 and the wing backs, and compare the two. Both systems required the wing backs. We haven't got them. Both systems require quality centre backs. We haven't got them. At the moment, you take Romero out of it, who hasn't had a great season so far, possibly due to injuries he's been struggling with, possibly not. We don't know. But if you take him out of it, there's just been some mediocre performances from Dyer and Davies at best. Longley not really added a lot. He's had a few good games, but a lot of mediocre games as well. We've not addressed it, and it's just been lingering for ages. Instead of going out and improving that defence, we give Davis a new contract. Now we're looking to give Dyer a new contract. So it's pathetic. Dyer was there when Pochettino was there, and Pochettino dropped him from central defence, put him into defensive midfield, thought he could make something of him there, and he wasn't good enough for that either. So he got left out.
Yeah.
And now contract extension. And for one of the first names on the team sheet, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
it's not even a comparison; it's just an embarrassment now.
And the key thing as well, I mean, I think again, like with the Romero thing, like you say, I said it last year to people. I think everyone got a little bit carried away. If I'm honest, I think he's a good player, and I think now in football, Kuva, you're not allowed to just say a player's a good player. There's got to be a kind of sensational, he's useless or he's a goat. If there's no, but I thought Romero was good and said to everyone, just relax. For me, he's a bit rash. I watched him the other day against Croatia. There was a couple of things he did in the first half where I'm like, oh, like heart in mouth type defending. At this stage, he's nowhere near Vertonghen or Toby, is he? At this stage, he's nowhere near their level, is he?
No, not yet. There's a hell of a lot of potential in Romero. I do think a lot of the sort of dipping performances is down to fitness levels, perhaps harbouring an injury. We've seen he's got it in him. If he's on his game, he's so aggressive, pinching the ball off people, crunching tackles, gets everybody around him. It inspires the crowd and the team. Some of these crunching tackles lead directly to goals. I think it was against Leicester, wasn't it, last season, with the he just absolutely poleaxed Soyuncu. I forgot.
Yeah, Soyuncu, Leicester.
Brilliant tackle. A few years ago, would probably got a red card or something, but they let it go as it should be, in my opinion, and get a goal from it. Yeah, he's that kind of inspirational type defender. If it's going well, he's going to look world class. If it's not going well, he can suddenly go a little bit iffy, a little bit off his game. Not the greatest reader.
This is for me. This is, I wouldn't say the word class yet. I think we call players class and world class way too easily. But this is a comment I really agree with. I truly agree with this from Ben. Big up, Ben. If you haven't been over to Ben's coffee shop, get over there to the coffee company. Romero needs a calm defender next to him as he plays on the edge. I can't agree more, Kuva. And what I would love, I would love somebody like a Rio Ferdinand to get hold of a Romero and talk to him about, you don't need to go and I know, Kuva, I know we said this before, I know fans love to see that crunching tackle when he runs out, but a lot of the time it's not actually needed. It looks great, but it's not needed, and you give away a yellow card, free kick. For me, I'd want to get a Rio Ferdinand and Maldini, someone that can whisper in his ear and say, hey, just take a yard back. You don't need that. Take a yard back, read the game. So for me,
I'll go complete opposite. I think you never take that out of this game. What you do is allow for it, and you have the defender that knows what he's doing and holds position well in the middle there. Not a Dyer. Get yourself a Skinner or a proper defender alongside it. For me, Romero is the equivalent of playing the high line and high pressing game. It's pros and cons to it. It's high risk, high reward. He does that, and it pinches goals for you. It nips a counter attack, next attacks in the bud. You allow for it. It works. He's been successful doing that. I don't see why you wouldn't need to change a defender that has been very successful and caught the eye doing exactly that.
But I don't think it's always successful though, Kuva. That's the problem. Like,
he's not the last defender back there. If we're playing the back three, he is the one that can take risks.
True, but for me, the top defenders I've ever seen in my lifetime, they never needed to do that. They never. Had to.
True, but I mean, there's great central defenders about, and there's truly all-time greats. Rio Ferdinand, one of the best we've ever produced.
He was
likes of Maldini is the best of all time in my opinion. And he's the quote I love from Maldini was if he needs to make a tackle, he's already made a mistake.
Right. But this is the thing for me.
That's a Maldini.
I get that. I just feel sometimes I get it. When you're going to nick it, I get it. But sometimes it's not nicking it. It's Romero just running out and going bang and whacking a player. And I think to myself,
yes, get in.
No, I don't like it.
Get in.
It's all well and good for that fan and for the emotion, but top defenders don't do that.
Me.
No, they don't do it. They don't do it. This is the difference. I don't see Virgil van Dijk doing that. You know?
He does that at times as well. I can't believe there's central defenders that don't put themselves about a bit.
It's not about putting yourself about. It's about not doing it when you need to do it, as opposed to every time you see a bloke coming, bang. Look, for me, I like him. I like Romero. I do feel, though, that because of how bad our other defenders are, people think he's better than he is. But that's just me. That's just me.
He's still young. He's got a long way to go on central, especially as a central defender. Don't really peak till they're 30, do they?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when we look at it, I mean, there's no point comparing any of the others to Davis and Dyer, etc. But let's move into centre mid. Back then, we had a wonderful centre mid combination, didn't we? In terms of Dembele and Wanyama. In terms of Wanyama, who was better on the ball than I think a lot of people gave him credit for, but could do the kind of destroying piece, the work rate, the tackling. And then Dembele, who could do all that, but he could do Dembele things. And I don't think I need to explain. I mean, we know, right? He did Dembele things with the ball.
Yeah, he was all right, wasn't he? Yeah.
And this is the thing now. When people, this is why now, and this is why I get so frustrated with football fans, Kuva. Like when fans now say to me, "Oh my God, how good is Bentancur?" And "Oh my God, Bentancur's world class," and Højbjerg's this, and he's a goat, and I look and I think these couldn't lace Moussa Dembele or Luka Modric or Carrick's boots for me.
Højbjerg, the warrior, the Viking warrior. If he went up against prime Wanyama would have broken him in half.
Yeah.
We're talking about a severely powerful bloke. He would destroy teams. I remember when he was playing for Southampton against Arsenal one time. He absolutely destroyed Arsenal's football. It totally took over their midfield. They were shit scared of him. It absolutely took him apart. And then we signed him, and I just thought, yes, this is gonna it's going to put the fear of God into him when they play him. If only he stayed fit.
Yeah,
that was the big thing. Plus, of course, some of the greatest tweets of all time.
Oh, superb. Absolutely. But I mean, it just worked because Dembele had that ability to not only break up play, which we saw him do time and time again, but it was break up play and then carry the ball forward. Carry it forward, ride a tackle. Sometimes he took the piss and he'd go back on himself and ride that same tackle again. And people always said, oh, he don't score or assist, but that wasn't his job. He wasn't in there to do that. He was there to give it to the Allies, the Ericssons, the Sons, the Kanes. So again, in midfield, this team compared to that team for me is nowhere near.
Light years behind. Absolutely light years behind.
Yeah.
The fact we're nowadays, we look at players like Sissoko, Højbjerg, and saying, they put in such work rate and, you need players like this. We're celebrating mediocre players.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's good to see people putting in the effort. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to see that from your players. But if you look at pure quality, I mean, the best midfielders around, certainly in this last generation, would have been the likes of Steven Gerrard for me. All round, brilliant midfielder, could do everything. We're looking at nowadays. You get the Makalele role that he made so famous that so many players do now, the defensive midfielder. Why does it have to be so limited? I don't see the need for that.
I agree. Just say Foggy Foam. Sorry, mate. I can't agree. I don't think this is the player Bentancur is. For me, again, I agree with your last bit about performing when it matters. And then I'm going to go to this comment. Where did I see it? Somebody put a comment that I really agreed with as well. Of course, this. I agree with this. And I know this is hard because listen, before I get pelters for this, Kuva, I like Bentancur. And again, I'll go to that word that I like to use, Kuva, for most players. He's a good player, right? Bentancur's a good footballer. But I agree with this completely. I think he looks much better than he is against the average sides. I need to see it. I need to see it against a top team. I need to see these waxing lyrical performances he gives against Leeds. I need to see that against Arsenal, Chelsea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, I don't think we're ever going to see the best out of him until we've got better players around him.
I agree.
He is that link-up player. He's got to bring it all together, but he's got some very, very poor defenders behind him.
Sure.
He must look out to his right at times and think, Christ, Emerson Royale. That's a passing option, apparently.
Yeah.
He stunted his abilities at the club at the moment. I think that when we get some better quality players in, he's going to start shining. I don't think he's the type of player that's going to take the game by the scruff of the neck, though. I don't think he's the sort of dominant player. I think he's just that. He's just an intelligent passer. Carrick can carry the ball, can keep it simple as well, keep possession. Make the intelligent pass.
That from Vancouver.
Yeah.
I agree. Whenever I've seen him, whenever Basuma is in the team, whether that's just Basuma and Bentancur or Basuma alongside both of them, you then see Bentancur get a little bit more adventurous, get a little bit more licensed. So I wonder whether or not Bentancur isn't made for a 2. I wonder whether or not he is made for the proverbial 3-man midfield where one sits and allows the other two to go. And if
I think he could play in a 2. You're just playing with Basuma. I think Basuma,
I agree.
For me, Basuma's a better footballer than Højbjerg, but not everybody will agree with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just quickly, we've got TT Tone has said over the next 12 months, fans will begin to realise Højbjerg is fraudulent. He knows how to manage his managers. I hear what you're saying. I don't think the word is fraudulent. I just think he is what he is. And
limited.
He's limited, but fans. I mean, look. Hopefully, Ellie's not watching this. I think Højbjerg does a job. That's the sentence I will give to Højbjerg. He does a job. Now, what that job is is a completely different conversation, Kuva, right? But you can see why every manager picks him, because he will do what is asked of him to the best of his ability. Now, whether that's good enough for us to move forward as a club is a different conversation. But he's another one, as I said, you can't knock him for his ethic, his work rate, his commitment. But for me, he's just not quite at that level, I think, that the Man Cities, the Chelseas, the Liverpools, the Arsenal, I don't think he's at that level.
Yeah, it's kind of like the argument of a few years back with forwards or something. You remember Jermaine Defoe at the club? Fan favourite, banged in a lot of goals for us. But if you had somebody like a Berbatov instead of him, you'd have to say, well, you've been great for us and everything, but sorry, I'm going to have to pick the better player. For me, that's Højbjerg. He's doing a job while we're looking for somebody to permanently fill the position. He's a steady Eddie. He's no more than that for me. Occasionally comes up with some great goals at great times. He's got some important ones for us this season, no doubt about it. I think he's possibly overachieved for his skill set for me at times, but I don't think long term he's good enough. I don't think he's mobile enough. I don't think he can control a game like other players can. Yeah, he gets stuck in, but I've always said this. He's more like that irritating insect around players. They can't quite shake him off. But he's not a destroyer. He's not a Wanyama. He's not a Dembele, is he?
He celebrates tackles. That's what I do like that about it. It's funny. Like, he'll put a tackle in, he'll go, come on. Just quickly before we continue that conversation and look to our forward players, Rooksy Pop, thank you so much for the donation. I hope you're well, my man. A big fan of Rooksy Pop. He has said, big up, buy yourself a nice gift, Savva. Oh, you know how to treat me, you do. Højbjerg has good attributes, but doesn't do it in the games for me. Basuma deserves more chances. Interesting one, this, Kuva, isn't it? Because Basuma was bought. I think every Spurs... listen, I don't know a single Spurs fan that was disappointed that we signed Basuma. Been there, seen it, done it in the Premier League for a number of years now. Good age, experienced, good engine. Can destroy players, but can carry the ball forward. And I just don't think we've seen him as much as we thought we would. Are you surprised we've not seen him that much? Does he deserve more chance, as Rooksy Pop says?
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I honestly saw him as perhaps the closest we're going to have for Dembele coming in. Right. I'll put him up there. He's got that sort of potential to his game. We've seen it. He's destroyed us when he was at Brighton. I've watched him destroy plenty of other teams as well.
Yeah.
Very, very good player. I don't think he's had anywhere near enough chances.
Yeah, it's baffling, really.
It's one of the criticisms we both have with Conte, isn't it? He gets a little bit too much stuck in the. He's got his favourites. He's got players that he's not going to drop because he just likes them too much. Højbjerg ticks a lot of boxes. Let's not be fair to him. He's not a terrible player by any stretch. But I think the boxes he ticks is he obviously listens to his manager. He works his socks off for them. That goes a long way for a manager when you got players that will go the extra mile for you, but doesn't mask that I think he's just not got the talent at the end of the day. He's decent. He's come up with some good goals, like I said, but I don't think there's enough about him to long term forward. We're surely looking to try and assemble a team to win things, aren't we? I don't see it with him.
I think the key thing was, when you look at the players we're mentioning now compared to that midfield under Poch, so to speak, I think the three we had then, it had everything. If I'm now going to chuck Eriksen in, right, from a free man perspective, you had the workhorse, the destroyer, the muscle in Wanyama, but could also play a little bit. You had Dembele, who could destroy players, but had that bit of guile, that composure. Give me the ball. I won't panic. I will hold on to it in tight situations. And we could see him run games. Then in front of them, you had Eriksen, who could play. You had Eriksen, who was the creator. He was the one, give me the ball. I will make us tick. So you had it all. Now, when I look at the three, let's say the best three centre mids we've got, Basuma, Højbjerg, Bentancur, when they play together, I think they're all much of a muchness. I don't see that they've got the ball carrier. I don't see they've got the creator. Do you know what I mean? I don't see that they've got that kind of guile and ability to put their foot on it and control games. Is that a worry for us in that middle area that we seem to keep buying these Kuva? And then we're linked with Amrabat, who's exactly the same. We've got Sa, you've got Skip. Is it a worry?
It depends what we're doing with the rest of the transfers, doesn't it?
Sure,
if we do get in quality wing backs, if we keep the likes of Kulusevski fit, he's a massive deal for the club. If you don't necessarily need that creative spark from those central midfield positions, if the other pieces are in play, the way Kane drops back anyway, as we know, it becomes that almost. I used the phrase "false 10" the other week because that's kind of what he does. And him, Kulusevski, let's say even hopefully Sonny gets back on form, or gets within the goals anyway. It's not a problem up front there. That's really not an issue. If you've got some wing backs who can join them that are capable of creating chances at will, we'll be looking good. Yeah. I think then you could say, the two midfielders being absolute destroyers is probably not a bad move. Yeah. I think it would actually work with Dembele and Wanyama very well then. But we haven't got that, have we? So are we lacking? Do we need something else in the meantime?
It goes to Sean's point when he was on the show on Wednesday. When the word he used was, let me get this right, rigidity. And as much as that's great, what worries me about that, Kuva, again, if we had all that, I know you're saying we haven't got all that at the moment, but what that means straight away is the moment one of them creative wing backs is out, you're back to being that limited team again. And there's no flexibility. There's no, okay, we're going to mix it up now. This hasn't worked for an hour. We're going to drop that. We're going to bring in a creative midfielder or vice versa. So it does feel, and a lot of the comments now about, Conte, someone said, all the four midfielders are clones. The fact all four are the same means Conte wants to keep the same profile. It does leave us rigid, right?
Yeah. No,
I could have said so much worse.
Yeah, it does. It's as people are saying, the same as the same. Four midfielders that very much chop and change, doesn't change a lot. It's just lack of quality generally, isn't it?
Hang on, sorry, just quickly. Peter Simons, come on. Jurgen Klinsmann, David Ginola, come on, really? Come on. Even I'm going to say it. Sol Campbell,
Ledley King.
Come on, that's a big call, Peter. That's yeah. I'm not sure where you're going with that. That's not true. But Kuva, let's look then. I mean, and then we look at the forward three. I suppose you put Eriksen in there as well. You look at Eriksen, Ali, Kane, and Son, and depending on the formation, three of the four would play. I mean, it's difficult because two of them are still here, right? So again, are they better now than they were then? Are they supported as well now as they were then? You'd probably have to say no because you don't have Ali's goals or assists. You don't have Eriksen's creativity. So all in all, when you look at that, are we stronger in any part of the pitch than we were 5 years ago?
Yeah, the front three for me.
Stronger?
I think Kulusevski, Kane, Son is a better front three than Kane, Eriksen, Dele Alli.
Eriksen?
Yeah.
I think
I would definitely have
Eriksen left.
Yeah, well, who would you drop? Son, Kane, or Kulusevski?
If I say Son, I'll get pelters.
Well, forget current form. Over the last few years, I mean, when Son's on board.
Yeah, but
for me, it's not a question of that. That's where we have the difficulty with formations and stuff, isn't it? So
agreed. For me, you find look. Let's be fair. If you had a Christian Eriksen in his prime at Spurs, actually, let's be honest. Even now, you find a way to get players like that into your team.
Yeah, drop Eric Dyer and put Eriksen as the cam. That'll do.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, this is why a lot of it, and let's talk about this, Kuva. Let's talk about a lot of it for me is this unwillingness to move away from wing backs. For me, also leaves us very rigid and not able to experiment or buy players. So the other thing Sean and I were talking about was it's all well and good Spurs fans saying we want Maddison, for example. Right? This isn't about him, but it's it is. It's all well and good saying we want a Maddison, but does Conte, because unless you play a 4 or unless you go to 2 up top and have an attacking midfielder in behind them, where does a Maddison fit in? And this is the thing about the whole rigidity for me. Can't stop using that word now. Sean's giving it to me. That's where for me, I just feel we're so inflexible that do we put off players? Would we put off a Maddison joining someone of that ilk?
Well, yeah, of course. If you can't see where you're going to be fitting into a team, then it would be strange all round, wouldn't it? It's on the other hand, I always think about this: if Glenn Huddle was suddenly come through the academy tomorrow, it'd find a way of putting him in the team.
Of course you do.
So,
of course you do.
It shouldn't be an issue. I think. Is Conte actually that inflexible with his formations? I don't think he is. I just think this is like the best he sees as what he's got us available at the moment. He's looked at other alternatives. We have gone to 3-5-2 at times. We've even gone to 4-2-4 at times.
But Kuva, look, this sums it up for me. Big up Phil P. Love Phil P. This sums it up for me is we are a football club that our whole club formation and ethic and ethos and tactics is centered around wing backs without wing backs. It's mind blowing.
And also 3 at the back when we've only got 1 at the back.
Right. Yeah, it does baffle me slightly.
It's almost like we have to strengthen the defence, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? Just quickly, people, we're going to go for about another 15, 20 minutes. So please get in any questions you want Kuva and I to discuss, whether that's about Spurs, football, transfers, whatever it is. Just get it in. We'll discuss it.
Please, this is innuendo central so far, mate.
Absolutely. Please smash that like button. It is free. Please smash the like button. We have only got 40 likes and there's 115 people in. It's very tight out there. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? When we're talking about transfers, I think, as fans, we can all sit here and we do, don't we? Every football fan of every club, we play the game. Oh, he's available. We could get him. He should be joining. But I truly believe, Kuva, that a lot of our problems in the transfer market is going to be that I think that we're so rigid with who we want to buy that there's a lot of players that won't join and play for a Conte. I've got on record and said that a number of times. I think there are players out there that will completely dismiss wanting to play for an Antonio Conte. Is that harsh?
It's debatable. We can't really rule it out. We can't say it definitely is either. It's definitely a viewpoint that's got some sort of validity. But for me, the bigger problem isn't that. It's the fact we cannot get rid of this surplus that we don't want. We've got massive wages going out on players that aren't even at the club at the moment, out on loan, still don't shift them. One thing's for sure is Levy is not going to break the rigid wage structure by just bringing in players and having some that you can't even have signed up for next season. We'll just be sitting them on, not even on the bench. How many contracts can you tear up? At the end of the day, he's still running the club as a business, so that's not going to happen. I think we're stuck. We've cut our own throats by getting in mediocre players, bumping their wages up to stupid amounts, and none of the mediocre clubs that would want to take them can afford to.
It's mad, isn't it? When you actually look at who's coming back in the next 6 months, and you've got the likes of, you've got Serge Reguilon, Joe Rodon, Harry Winks, Ndombele, Lo Celso, Parrott, Scarlett. I feel like I'm
not even having a go at him because it's not his fault that what happens with the finances. But look at Brian Hill. Isn't he on 90 grand a week or something stupid like that? Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
what's he done to afford that to earn that sort of wage?
Yeah, So when a club comes in and says, oh, when a Valencia, I'm going to pick on Spanish clubs, when a Valencia or a Mallorca, I'm seeing him linked with today, when those clubs come in and go, come and join us, and he says, oh yeah, I'm on 90k, and they go, what?
Yeah, exactly.
What? We'll give you 40? I don't know.
They could get 4 Spanish league players that are just as good on those that wage.
And that's the problem, and that's why I do have some empathy with Paratici and co. And that comes back to what we talked about in the summer. At what point, like you said, Levy's running as a business for sure, but at what point with some of these players do you have to go, whatever we can get for them, we've got to get them out the door just to get some money in, just to allow us space to bring in other players, and more importantly, to get rid of some of these huge wages.
Well, that's it. We're a club being run by people that look at the bottom line at all times. Right. Forget the ability of the player. It's just about that bottom line, the salaries, the signing fees, the projected value of the player. It's all that's going to matter. It's all that drives our transfer policy. It always has been. Occasionally, you might get a player that a manager's delighted with, or something works out. But I think our transfer policy has been very poor for a long time.
I mean, let's quickly talk about this one, Kuva. I mean, lots of talk. Any questions you want, get them in. We will discuss them. Ben Salah Yusuf, big up to yourself, has said, apparently we're going to spend 50 million on a backup midfielder and 0 on a centre-back. Now, of course, whilst we don't know the plans, we can never know the full plans. We only know what we hear. Lots of talk about Spurs going and making bids for Amrabat of Fiorentina. For me, a good player that shines at a tournament and then looks okay in his league club. That for me would be the icing on the cake, and not in a good way. Sorry, let me get the right expression. That would be the straw that breaks the camel's back for me, Kuva, if we went and spent that sort of money on another defensive midfielder. What do you make of those links?
If that was happening, for me, it means one of the others is being sold. There's no logical reason otherwise. And then you'd have to look at, is that talk about Højbjerg going to Real Madrid true?
Right.
If that's the case, it makes sense. But if we're just bringing him in and we're keeping those others, that's madness.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Play 6 in midfield?
I mean, I've seen it again. It's one of those. He has had a good World Cup. I've watched a lot of Morocco games. He's looked brilliant. But people keep saying, do you want him? And I'm like, no, don't. I'm not a football fan that just wants every good player. I'm a football fan that wants my club to have a plan. And I think if you buy Amrabat in, you then play a 3-4-3. That means two of Amrabat, Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Basuma sit on the bench week in, week out. And again, for me, it's buying, like we talked about the other day with Irish Dave from Irish Hotspur. Go and follow and subscribe to him. It's buying squad players again before buying first team players. And I don't get that. I don't get that ethos, Kuva. I don't get it.
No, I don't either. It's what we've done for a long time though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the most notable time would have been when we signed Bale and just had that huge splurge of all the money spent on random crap, wasn't it? We had Ericsson, great for us, but he was like one of the cheapest of the lot out of the amount we spent on. Chadley was okay.
Yeah.
Paulinho, Carrick, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
We keep doing it. Look at more recent. Pape Matar doesn't get a kick. Jed Spence, if he's going out on loan, that'll be good for him because he's not going to get a chance here. It's just it's a complete waste. It really is difficult to talk about this without swearing and punching something. It's so frustrating.
It just feels like it should be such a straightforward process, a plan. People sitting around the room going, "What do we need? Okay, what level do we need?" You know me, Kuva. I'm not one that feels we should be signing the best players in the world. I'd love to, but we're not that club. But I also don't think we're that club where we have to go for frees and players on loans to kind of get what we need.
We are a club that could be going for potentially some of the best players in the world and then actually put them in the bloody team and let them develop. but we don't do that either.
I mean, to answer Phil P's question, can you see this situation, this issue being addressed in the January, or do you think this is going to be one that we wait until the summer?
Summer, see who the manager is then.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it happening. Like it goes back, always goes back to me for we can't shift the players out unless we can sell the bulk of those unwanted players. We can't keep bringing players in. I mean, us fans will say we can, but Levy isn't going to look at that and say, "Whoa, our wage bill's just 30% higher than it should be." If it, if he's treating it as a business, they don't work that way. He's going to want to clear the books and then get the players in. We've over the years we've always done this: player out before the player comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at some of the comments from people in the chat, see if we need to answer any of them. Stuart said, Savva, Amrabat has looked good this season for Fiorentina. I would have him for Højbjerg. I mean, again, if you're swapping like for like, great. But again, even if Højbjerg went, you've still got players in that area. We haven't got centre-backs and right wing-backs. I feel like it's just a merry-go-round of buying the same area.
This to me doesn't matter. Like I said, if Højbjerg, say, going out for 30 million to Madrid, we brought in Amrabat for 30 million. It doesn't matter. It's just recycling.
Would you bring him in for 50 million though?
I haven't seen him at the World Cup. I've heard he's done well, but I've seen him a few times for Fiorentina when we got linked with him. He didn't really stand out to me, but he looked okay. I can't tell. I mean, I'm not a scout for him.
I just want the next time we spend 50 million, I want it to be on a centre back. I want it to be a centre back. I'm so bored of buying centre mids. Well, let's have the Harry Maguire chat, because again, that's another rumour that's I say growing legs. I don't know. They're all rumours, aren't they? But I mean, Harry Maguire. If Tottenham Hotspur signed Harry Maguire, sum it up for me, Kuva. If Tottenham signed Harry Maguire, what's your where are you as a fan at that stage?
That would only be if we're getting rid of Eric Dyer.
Yeah, but would you want Harry Maguire?
No, but he's like for like, isn't he? They're both shit.
A ready-made replacement.
Yeah. No, right. Okay, let's get some things right with Harry Maguire. Aerially, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
he really is. We don't have that at the moment.
Okay.
So that would be a positive.
Okay.
But one thing our defence really lacks at the moment is pace.
Stop there. Everyone, you just heard Kuva say, right, Kuva really wants Spurs to sign Maguire, and he's his first pick for this window. All right, I've got it.
I think he's better than Eric Dyer.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, look, do I want him? No. Is he better than Dyer? It's hard to tell because I don't rate either of them. But like you said, what Maguire does do is he's dominant in the air in both boxes, right? But for me, I just think it would be another shambles of Spurs to go, let's buy a player who's been crap for 2 years now and stick him alongside more poor defenders. Do you know what I mean? So,
you've got to say somebody that dominates two boxes is a player.
Oh, mate. I've only ever been able to dominate one box at a time. I can't. I've not mastered two boxes. Colin said either we get these players out on loan or offload them on cheap, which is what I would do. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree, but I guess again it comes back to what Kuva was saying, that we're run as a business, and I can't see Daniel Levy just going, right, all those players out on loan, get rid of all of them for 5 million each. Do you know what I mean? He's going to want something back for them, right? Ben Salah said for 50 million we can get Skriniar.
Much better signing.
I guess the question is with Skriniar is why Spurs? If I'm sitting on the fence, why Spurs? Because I've got a feeling if Skriniar's available, there's a lot better teams such as PSG who have been after him for a long time. I think there's a lot better clubs for him to go to, such as Chelsea, rumoured to go there, PSG. It's rumoured that City were looking at him. Again, for me, this looks like another player that we should have taken our chance a few years ago when we could have got him.
Possibly. Another way of looking at it might be he'll look at the situation. He knows Conte can win things. He'll know that he's definitely going to get in the Spurs side.
Yeah.
He might fancy the idea of coming over here, being the main man, and helping turn us into a successful club for once. It may be an ambitious player for an ambitious manager.
Yeah,
we're not signing him now, are we?
But let's be honest though, Kuva. I did this with Sean the other day. You're Skriniar, right? And Spurs come in and put a concrete bid. You think about it, right? You have that chat with your agent. You go, okay, I know Antonio. I've played for him. He's won things. All right, there's Harry Kane down there. And then you go, right, okay, but as well as Spurs' bid, PSG have put in a bid for you, and so have Chelsea. Realistically, right, as a player, are you going to go and play for Moneybags PSG and get 400 grand a week, play with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, go to Chelsea, get 400 grand a week? You know they're going to keep spending until they win things again. Or are you going to go to
Tottenham? Silly. You dismiss them straight away. I could get down to Spurs and I've got Emerson Royale. I'm there.
I think De Vrij. I think De Vrij is more of an option than Skriniar. I think didn't PSG try and get him most of the summer?
I mean, for me, the sensible moves would have been De Vrij and then Endika.
Yeah,
because you got the young player, relatively good value for money. De Vrij would be value for money because he's getting on a bit, but he'd have the experience and it'd help develop the players around him. Even Romero would learn from De Vrij. So we would have a nice little defence sorted out there. Then you look for the long-term replacement for De Vrij. Meanwhile, you don't have to worry about the other two. You got a couple of young players that are developing.
For sure.
That makes sense to me. That would not break the bank, would it? Probably get both of them for the same cost as a Skriniar, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, if the rumours are true, and again, the word rumour has to always be applied to any transfer conversation on any YouTube channel, right? It has to. If the rumours are true and Arsenal have signed Undika or Undeka, however it's pronounced, on a free, I mean, that will be gutting. For a club that desperately needed a centre-half, to lose out on Undika to your rivals for a free, for me, again, would show that we've just got such big issues at this club.
And does it sound like a sort of signing Arsenal would make? Young, up-and-coming defender that can grow with a manager that's prepared to play him? Yeah.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
If you put him next to Saliba...
Yeah.
Who's a very good centre half, by the way. I really like him.
He's having a great season.
Colin, Levy is a problem, but what I would say, sitting on the fence, this Levy is a problem. But when you give 30 million to Paratici and the best right back he can come back with is Royal, I can't put that on Levy for 30 million. I think any director of football or scout worth their salt, scouring the world for right backs, shouldn't come back with Emerson Royal. You know, again, when you're spending 60 million on a forward, you ask yourself the question, could you have got someone younger, better, cheaper, and used some of the money to buy a centre-back? So, yes, of course, it's always going to be Levy, and Levy's the main man in this conundrum. But I do feel that a lot of it needs to be, again, what we've always talked about, Kuva, is there a plan between the director of football, the owner, and the manager? That's definitely got to be the tripod that comes true. Big up, Danny.
Tripod, or I think more like Bermuda Triangle.
Well, possibly, yeah. Possibly.
Things just disappear. I mean, things on the table, and suddenly they're gone. I don't understand how it's working between them. I just don't believe that they're all pulling in the same direction. I really don't. I cannot believe that Conte wants these players that he doesn't pick when they arrive.
Yeah,
I mean, why would you do that? It makes no sense. I think it's more a case of Levy's hired Paratici because he thought, Paratici's got a reputation for getting things on the cheap and making it work. Sounds like a Levy plan to me. During the pandemic and everything, COVID stuff, probably was a good plan at that point. But we are getting that kind of treatment now. I just don't see how it's going to work long term. I really do not see this three staying together long.
I've said it all along. I've said it. I feel. Look, we won't go too deep into this, but I think the whole thing needs a reset. I think you've got to have all three on the same page, and I just do not think we're there at all.
Quality comment from Phil P. just come in.
I'll read it out in a second. Just quickly, I mean, I would be all over this comment. I think that would be a very sensible signing for Tottenham. Left-sided centre-half that I think is very good in defence. He's good in the air. He's experienced. That, for me, is the sort of signing Tottenham should be making, I think. I think he's a good player.
He's pretty decent on the ball as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, Eddie Howe certainly got him working well at Bournemouth. Why not? Why not?
That's exactly what that's the sort of thing I think. Look, we can look at the Bastonis. We can talk about the Bastonis, the Vardials. I don't think we're getting them. I don't think the pool is there. But I think if you turn around to Nathan Ake at Man City and said, look, you know, you're a bit part player there. Come in, you're going to play every game for Spurs. We're still in the Champions League. Blah, blah. I think that's a good pull for him. But look, the way that you rate him is in the summer when he was linked away back to Chelsea. Pep said, didn't he, that he didn't want to let him go because he rates him.
Yeah.
So get any questions you've got in. We're going to go for a few more minutes. So get any questions in. Big up to Alex Kiriakou in the chat. Danny's in the chat. Phil P. Foggy Foam. Foggy Foam has said this. Would you... Oh, no, sorry. I don't know where that's gone. Would you all take Wan-Bissaka and play him at left centre-back and put Romero on his favourite centre-back? I think he means right centre-back. I wouldn't. I think he's what I've seen of Wan-Bissaka. I think he looks very good defensively. I think like one-on-one, he's very good. I don't know if there's any dynamism to his game. I don't know if there's anything outside of that. I don't know. What do you make of him, Kuva?
Yeah, I don't see him as being a particularly good player with the ball.
Agreed.
It's one of the issues we do need to address. We need to have players that are comfortable on the ball, happy to play under pressure, find accurate passes, and just not crack under the pressure. I don't see him as one. I agree, though, 1v1, defending-wise, he's very good. But so is Davinson Sanchez generally.
Don't. I'm not going there. Just quickly, Danny says it's a shame.
Well, that's what I mean about you can overrate a player quite easily.
Just quickly, Danny has said it's a shame. I mean, Kuva, are you okay to keep going? Are you good?
Yeah.
Well, we're good. We'll keep going. Just for Danny Kiriakou. This is an interesting one. David Clark, big up to yourself. I love David Clark because we don't always agree, but we always have good debates. I agree very much with this. I really do. What do you, Kuva? Paratici and Conte, they do not have the pull that Spurs fans think they have. I completely agree.
Of the three, I think Conte's probably got the most pull at the moment.
I don't think he has. Hang on. Are we talking pull in terms of transfers coming in?
Oh, no, bollocks that. We won't get anybody worthwhile.
I don't think. I think a lot of fans thought Conte turns up. We go in the transfer market and go, "Oh, we've got Conte," and they go, "Oh, I'm going to go and play for." I don't think it's that.
It's all I'm thinking of is players that have played with him before and enjoyed it.
For sure,
that's a pull. But I mean, that's going to be the same with several managers. Ex-players of theirs want to play for him. Pochettino's still got great pull with those players he had with him at our place. So,
wherever Poch ends up, Dele Alli's got a new club, right? So.
No, I think he's
Dele Alli in a Spurs shirt next season, will we?
He didn't go to PSV, he did PSG. Wouldn't have made it a PSV either.
Can you imagine Poch comes back to Spurs, right? That's not the bit I can't imagine. Poch comes back to Spurs, and the next thing you know, we're taking back Dele Alli from Everton because they haven't paid any money for him, and we're building a team around Dele Alli. Stranger things have happened. Lena said, while Conte are still there, your director of football isn't going to get the players you need. And as far as Conte goes, you must have some say because he wouldn't want to be signing a contract. Well, I guess, Kuva, this comment in a roundabout way leads us to where we are as a club. This leads us to where we are with the contract talks. surely it all focuses on where the club is heading, what transfers they're going to promise him. And equally, I think we have to sit on the fence a little bit on this. As much as they want to say, yeah, we're going to back you, I'm sure there's going to be players that Conte wants, like a Bastoni, that it doesn't matter who, if we're in the Champions League, it doesn't matter if Conte's our manager. Are we a big enough pool? I think there's got to be that put into just rather, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say? Rather than just saying, oh, we'll give Conte everything he wants. At the same time, there's got to be some realisticness to this, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're not Moneybag City and clubs like that, or PSG. We are working within a set budget, generating our own funds for the club. So we can't go crazy. There are limits. Trying to get the most out of it is one thing. Are we getting the most out of it? I'd say not. Pool-wise, yeah, of course that's going to affect some of the transfers. You're not going to get like the next up-and-coming Messi or Ronaldo thinking, yep, Spurs is the place for me. They'll look at Man City straight away. They'll look at Liverpool. They'll look at the Newcastle even. I think they've probably got more pull than we have at the moment. Yeah,
and that's the thing for me. So, like, I guess when we have the conversation of, well, if Conte doesn't get what he wants, he walks. And again, we'll never know this. We'll never know this, Kuva. But what I would love to see, like a published list of, right, here is actually in his time at Spurs. Here are the players he asked for versus, here's what I got. And I'd love to cross-reference which names were on both sides. Do you know what I mean? Who he asked for.
This whole Levy out thing started for me when listening to what Glenn Huddle said on the transfers that fell through when it's time in charge. We had the likes of Fernando Morientes and Samuel Eto'o on the brink of signing, and then Levy haggled, and we lost both of them, and we got Helder Postiga and Bobby Zamora.
Oh, good players. As Bob would say,
Samuel Eto'o and Fernando Morientes.
Oh, don't.
Yeah. This is our board of directors. This is our chairman. This has gone on for ages. Saha, Ryan Nelson. The
thing is with some of these players, Kuva, is, I mean, let's take James Maddison, for example. Skriniar, Bruno Fernandes. Some these players, Grealish, they were there for the taking. Maybe they weren't as good then as they are now, but they were there for the taking. People could see it. They were excited by it. And we always just went for that level down. The problem is now, my worry is that a manager like Conte doesn't even want the middle level. I think Conte wants Bastoni, wants Vardiol. Yeah. But as a fan, I mean, let's be really honest. Would I love Vardiol at my club? Of course. Do I give it even a 0.001% chance of happening? No. Kuva, let me ask you a question. Spurs go out and say, Vardiol, 75 million to RB, and RB go, yeah, we'll accept that. What's the first thing that happens from all the other clubs in Europe?
I'll just, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They'll all go in.
This is it. This is why I don't like businesses running football clubs.
Yeah.
Because football clubs used to be, traditionally family owned.
Yeah.
You put in your part of yourself into that club. We are cut off from that. It's very sort of corporate based. Everything is. It's always looking at the spreadsheets. And those clubs that don't do that, those clubs that are quite happy to make the big signings because they want success. They want the prestige. They want them, whether it's sports washing, and that's another conversation altogether, or whether it's just because it's their plaything and they've got the money and they want to win things and have fun with it. It happens. I don't like the fact
wanted morals. They wanted morals, Kuva.
You can't have morals with a billionaire owner. Right. If fans really looked into how Joe Lewis made his money, we're not so squeaky clean ourselves. Yeah, he's a pretty shady bloody character.
All of them are.
Yeah, of course there are. You can't make $1 billion without being a complete siren in some way.
Of course, yeah, of course. This is this is the interesting thing. But again, that's my worry, is that the name Conte has raised fans' expectations to thinking we can get the name Vardy or the name Bastoni. I'm using those two for centre back, but the name Hakimi. I don't think they match, because Conte, who was up there at Inter Milan, Chelsea, sorry, I don't know what was happening there. It's because I'm looking in the wrong way. You know, Conte's here, Chelsea are there. Conte's here, Inter are there. Conte's here, Juve are there. He's come down here to manage Spurs, right? Will those centre-backs leave those big clubs to come down? That for me is where...
Just worked out what you're doing is that conversation about worst ever signings. John Scales, that's what that was.
John Scales. Yes, good. I like that link. Very clever. But do you see what I mean? I think some fans' expectations of who can be signed, and that, isn't proportionate to who we are as a club. But I think that's why I don't rate Paratici, because I want a director of football that goes and gets you some gems. Go and get
I think there's an easy sort of test for which signings we're going to make in each transfer window now. Is it a player you've heard of? That could be a possibility. Is it a player you want? If it's yes, we're not signing them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you have to go on.
Well, I mean, how many in the last 10 years, how many times have we been linked with a player, Spurs are in talks with, and it's actually got over the line? I mean, a proper player that every fan wanted. For example, when Hitchin went out to Inter and was there for 2 weeks or whatever negotiating for Skriniar, comes back without him and then goes to Swansea and brings us Joe Roden. When was the last name like that? Doesn't have to be
I'd say it's on. It's all relative to the sort of scale of the prestige of the player, if you like. But I'd say one that, to be fair, we were all quite happy with at the time. Basuma.
Oh, Basuma.
I think most people thought, that's a good signing, because we'd seen him, haven't we? We were impressed with him. So I think that there's a few. Perisic, I think most people thought that's a tidy signing. Even if he's not going to last long, he's still a good player.
Let me change the question then. When was the last time we went and got a player from a decent club where we had to pay a proper fee to get a player like that? Because Perisic on a free, easy to do. Basuma with a year left on his contract, Brighton not wanting to lose no money, easy to do. The one for me is, i.e., I'll just pluck some names. And when I pluck these names, I'm going with realism rather than saying players like Messi and Mbappe. A Ruben Neves, a James Maddison, where you'd have to go to a club and go, right, here's a
serious amount of money.
Here's a serious amount of cash. All the fans are going to love that player. I don't. I feel like, you're looking at Emerson Royal and people start pretending they know that he's good. Brian Hill, people are pretending that he's the best young player in the world and blah, 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 blah. I just don't think we do it. I just don't think we do. We seem to do the obvious, boring, cheap option. Even Richarlison for me felt like a real. It wasn't cheap, but it just felt like it was a bit
underwhelming. Yeah, that's
been it generally. Scored 13 goals at Everton.
Especially since I find it's so puzzling, that kind of money spent on Richarlison. Not because I don't think he's a good player, but you have to compare it to what did we do with Lo Celso and Ndombele.
Yeah,
we're looking at spending big money on these sort of they're a bit of a punt when it's from foreign league, isn't it? But we knew what we were doing on Richarlison. It's just like, was he ever going to set the world on fire for us? No, he's just a steady sort of player. I think he'll do well for us over the long course of time. But he's not that. He doesn't grab your attention, does he? He doesn't make you get up out of your seat very often.
I think the way I look at transfers, the way I look at any player, not just transfers, when debating a footballer, is this: if there is so much debate around a player, whether they're good or not, or whether they're right for us or not, then there's questions to be asked. And what I mean by that is, right now, I think if Spurs went and signed, again, I always use this because he ticks all the boxes. If Spurs went and signed James Maddison,
sorry, just one second. Sorry, mate. to me at the door.
Unbelievable. I'll talk to everyone else. I'll read out some comments. Nicola said Donnarumma, Hakimi, Van Bommel, Hazard, Pirlo. The list goes on. Yeah, Ndombele. God, look how that looked. Danny has said Romero probably. Yeah, Romero. Yeah, we talked about him earlier in the show. I think people were giving a bit too much praise for him, but yeah. Stuart has said, to be fair, we would have had Hazard if we had qualified for Champions League. It was the year we finished fourth. We never qualified as Chelsea won it. Yep. Kuva, yeah, what I was saying was this. If Spurs went out right now and signed Maddison and Skriniar, I don't think you're going to find a single Spurs fan that's going to turn around and go, what? What? Do you know what I mean? I don't think you're going to find a fan anywhere that goes, no, they're not for me, right? So many that we buy is like, what, really? And then you get the people that are ultra positive that will go, no, they're really, really good. Like with Richarlison. No, it's brilliant, bro. Do you see what I'm saying? There's too many for me that there's so much debate about them because I don't think there's a plan. I don't think they're good enough.
Well, that's the life of being a Spurs fan, isn't it? We've just got hope. We hope that something's going to work out at some point. There isn't a plan, is there? It's we're winging it day to day. It's what it's always felt like.
Yeah.
The manager can be sacked overnight, and we'll just bring in somebody you wouldn't even have a clue who it's going to be next.
Yeah,
it's just wild guesswork, all of it. Feels like that's the way it's being run on the boardroom level to me, but does to most people, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. I mean, if you do go and sign the likes of Maddison and Skriniar, to me, I think great couple of great signings
for sure.
Great, very, very top quality defender, and a player that's proven in the Premiership that he can score goals and create them at will.
But that's what I'm saying. Those two wouldn't cause any kind of controversy in the fan base. For example, if you go and sign Amrabat now, you're going to have 50% of the fan. I'm making these numbers up. I have no way of knowing this. 50% of the fan base will go, oh my God, he was amazing at the World Cup. Look at him. We should buy him. Defensive midfielder, blah, blah, blah. Then you'll get 50%, and I'll be in this 50% going, but why? But why have we signed another defensive midfielder? Do you know what I mean?
He's been hyped up, though, hasn't he? So that's all that matters, really.
Right. But that's where I'm at as a fan, is I'm not asking for the world. I'm just asking for signings that make sense. I'm asking for, if we had signed Undercar on a free and you think, great, good age, young, powerful centre-half, he'll come straight into our team. But we don't seem to do that. Longley on loan was the answer. And whilst I don't think Longley's terrible, I don't think he's great. I just think he's a middle-of-the-road centre-half. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I am with Spurs transfers and how I'm left feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always seen it. Well, not always, but recently I've sort of resigned to the fact that we should be looking at that tier that's a little bit less than the Hollywood signing. That's why I keep coming up with players like from the likes of Leicester or Brighton and things like that. Teams that have done well in recent years and have got some sort of talented way of signing players. I mean, they regularly digging out some gems for their team.
Yeah.
Brighton, for example, if we signed, say, a Lewis Dunk, people would go, yeah, that's no good. Want a Bastoni. But Lewis Dunk, big upgrade to some of the ones we got at the moment. I think he'd do really well. But, not that I want him. It's just an example. Brighton with Grosser, for example, in the midfield, he's been fantastic for them for several years.
Well, you look at Trossard, Gross.
Yeah, there you go.
McAllister.
Yeah.
You look at these players and I think to myself, they've scouted because they've got a way of playing, right? Every player they bring in, you can see where they slot into that Brighton machine. And, Graham, who I do shows with sometimes, older guy, he's got a good friend. He used to run the academy at Charlton Athletic, and he's got a lot of good connections at Brighton. And one of the guys at Brighton was saying that Brighton have all their transfers planned out years ahead. Obviously, it doesn't always work, but they've got the list of players that fit their their mould, that they want to monitor over the next year, then that they know they can go and make a bid. And that's from countries like Peru, Morocco. Do you know what I mean? Argentina, they're going all over the world to find these gems, these nuggets. They bring them in, sell them on like they did with Cucurella, and the club sustains itself. And I just think, I'm not asking for the world, mate. I just want a plan like that. Obviously, slightly.
Yeah, again, take that to Leicester as well. Sell Fofana to Chelsea for loads of money. Bring in Wout Faes, who's been fantastic for them. They're lining them up. This not a problem.
Agreed. I mean, you look at that Faes at Leicester. I think you can see. Sometimes you can just see. You know, difficult start coming into a team that weren't winning games and that weren't doing well. But they've kept like six. I mean, Wayne Holland, if he's in the chat, will tell me like something like 6 out of 7 clean sheets in a row. He looks brilliant. And that's all I want is a bit of a plan. Just quickly, I saw a comment here. And Danny, I'm not going to bring you on because I am going to go in 5 minutes. Otherwise, I feel like we'll just be talking for the sake of it. Pyrex King has said, Savva, would you take Unai at Spurs? So, Kuva, you've not watched the World Cup, right? But Unai has really impressed everyone. Number 8 for Morocco. Looks a really, really good player. Currently plays for, someone will tell if I'm wrong, I want to say Angers in France, maybe the 2nd division, maybe. Someone will correct me. Just looked really good. Technically sound. Drove forward with the ball. My worry with this Pyrex King is when you sign a player based off of one World Cup, I wonder if enough thought has gone into it, if there was enough planning into it. Do they fit what you want? It's different. If it's a player, for example, like another player who's had a good World Cup, like Alexis McAllister of Brighton, we've seen him. We've seen him play for Brighton and do really, really well. This guy, do we know? I'm not saying no one should take a punt on him. He looked really good, but it's always difficult, Kuva, isn't it, signing off the back of a tournament?
Musa Sissoko looked great in a World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Wayne. Yeah, we're trying to do your plans.
That's the exact comment I was waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, again, look, Kuva, I am going to, sorry. Right. Okay. There you go. Angers in League One, Liga, but bottom of the league. So, you know, but he looks he does look good. I can't say that. But look.
That's another thing. Sorry, just quickly. It's another thing I find a bit funny. Some of the debates that go on amongst the fans. If a team's at the bottom of the table and you're interested in the player, why are you doing that? They're not good enough. Look at the team that's at the bottom. And then you have to point out things like Southampton were bottom of the table when they signed Virgil van Dijk to Liverpool. Does that mean he's a crap player?
Yeah.
It can't look past certain aspects of the deal. It's got to be from a top club and a name that everybody knows. Otherwise, somebody's going to complain about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is slightly harsh, Lynn. I don't feel that Basuma's had any sort of game time. You know, Basuma got brought in for his first game against, I want to say West Ham when we drew 1-1. Looked dreadfully unfit, looked dreadfully unmatch fit. Since then, I can't remember him having back-to-back starts. I might be wrong. Someone, maybe once or twice, but I can't remember him having a 3, 4, 5 game stretch, Kuva, in the team, you know, to really, you know, put his stamp on the team.
Yeah, I think it's like one of these, same as Richarlison for me. I think you can't really look at him right now. You just look at him as a signing over the next few years. I think there'll be value for money then.
I saw someone the other day, a Spurs fan, I'm not going to say who, someone on Instagram, he's got loads of followers and I don't know why. He put his team of the World Cup up and Richarlison was the number 9. I just thought, how biased can you be? I mean, I know you've not been watching the World Cup, but there's plenty of players I'd have had in front of Richarlison. But hey-ho, look, I need to go. Otherwise, we will never go, Kuva. Much love. I will see you Sunday night for the Spurs review. And, of course, after the Spurs review, just before the Spurs review is that little matter of the World Cup final. So I hope you all enjoy France versus Argentina.
I'll also be on United Spurs of America later this evening, filling in for Mikey. I'll be co-hosting with Jacob. I think Ben Kaufman's going to be on as well.
Perfect. Everyone get over there and watch it. Listen, one of our players is going to win a World Cup this Sunday. Will it be Lloris? Will it be Romero? Let's find out. Good luck to both of them. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Please smash that like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It's free and it really does help. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you as always, Kuva. And we are